Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to do kind of a live stream, like super simple, and answer some questions on the community. I know that, doing community work and answering questions is what got my MVP award in the first place back in 2012. And I try to do it. I don't do it as often as I used to do in 2012, that's for sure. I need to do more about that. But now that I have, the podcast and the 2 Minute Tuesdays and all the content, creating, it's a little bit harder to, spend the time that I used to be able to spend back in the day. But what I wanted to do is, again, give you guys an idea of what is it that MVPs do in some cases and how easy it is to literally log into any community out there and answer questions from people out there looking for help. There's people out there that don't have the best relationship with a partner or with other experts, and they kind of go to the community to get some help or to get a second opinion. And it's always valuable for experts, not just MVPs, to be able to log in and see what are the questions that are out there and be able to answer some of those. I personally think that a lot of the things that I learn by answering these questions, there's no chance I would have learned any of that stuff if I was just on my own doing projects and learning as I go. So, being able to answer questions really helped me build my knowledge about dynamic CRM back in the day when I was working with CRM 4.0. Back in 2008, 2009, those years when I started helping on the community. One of the things I wanted to do is, again, I wanted to do a live stream just so you see how easy it is, but at the same time to answer your questions or suggestions, and even for you to help me. So if you see me, getting to a question and maybe struggling a little bit and you know the answer, I don't know all the answers. Please feel free to chime in on the chat window if you're watching this live on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching this live on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Again, we want to, do this more often, and I want you to be notified when it happens. I'm not always able to, plan these things. Sometimes I feel like I need to get something off my chest. Like I learned something from Microsoft and I need to talk about it. And by the way, there have been several live streams that I went on and talked about something and then deleted it later, for a variety of reasons. But if you're subscribed, you'll be able to watch this thing live before anyone finds out about it. Not just about Microsoft, by the way. Sometimes it's about projects that I'm working on and I just need to talk about it. So I love to go live and stream. And today was one of those days, not ranting about Microsoft or projects or anything like that, but I haven't done community work and answered questions in a while, so I figure I'll bring you on with me on this quest for answering questions. Let's see if within the next hour or so, we'll see how long we're live. We're able to answer a bunch of questions for the community. So let's switch scenes right here really quick and look at. Come on. Let's see. And let's look at the Dynamics 365 community to start with. If you notice, if you can see it, there's two sites that I have open. I just logged into them to get the latest questions in there, which is the Dynamics 365 community and the Dynamics 365 user group. So I will be logging into these and answering questions. So because we're just getting started, not a whole lot of people are watching, let's go ahead and start with the Dynamics 365 community. We can pick any sub-forums, by the way, anywhere we want to. So if you have any ideas, I'm happy to go into that. But for now, let's just start on the general one. I like to go into general just to see what general questions are in here. And actually, we can go full screen if you want, so you can actually see it. You don't have to see my face, but there's a full screen. Okay, so here's, let's just answer the first question. So here's what I do. I just right click on it. And typically what I do is I do it with like the first page or the first 5 or 10, depending on how much, time I have to work on it. So I just right click, on all of these and go for it. In a lot of cases, they don't have any responses. I kind of like the previous version of the community in a lot of ways, because I feel that I was able to quickly see if they had responses. Now this one's I can see the times, when it was posted, so 24 minutes, 47 minutes, and so on. So there's a chance that there's no responses in here, but I kind of like to see when they have 10 responses or 5 responses or whatever it is. So okay, so this is from C5 Insight. So this is a partner. I don't think they are asking a questions. So, and you can see right here, they talked about something. So I'm going to skip that. And then, again, I like to open them all. I cannot answer them all. Sometimes I just tag people or I send a link to somebody if I know that they can help. So if it's a portal question, I'll send it to Nick, for example. If it's, some scripting related, like this one about JavaScript, I'll send it to Daryl Labar or someone like that. So I cannot answer all of them, but at least I can help solve the problem. And, I happen to have a high ranking within the community. I'm a level 8, whatever that means, which is the highest level member right now that you can achieve on the community. But I don't do this to get more questions answered. I'm already an MVP. I don't have to be, there's no double MVP award that I'm going to win from this. I literally just want to help out. So, so let's go to the first one. Okay, so trial subscription, error in opening the environment. I create a new trial and able to access the applications with the sample data loaded. But when I try to open the environment the following day, it gives me the below error. I check the user roles. Apparently user form opens just fine. All seems to be okay. Any help will be appreciated. Okay, okay, so this is interesting. I've never seen this error before. Let's see if anyone answered the question. Says, follow this thing right here. Somebody asked, did you import any solution on day 1? I don't know about that. Okay, this seems to be, just by reading the URL, if you're the administrator, you can go to the solutions page and import a different solution. That seems to be a good pointer right here. It says you don't have permission to these records. Interesting. It doesn't say where he's getting that error. It just says when I try to open the environment, it's not telling me that. I mean, I've seen similar errors like this when you're trying to access data and you are a marked not as a read-write or not as a regular read-write account, but you're marked as an administrator account. And by the way, a lot of customers do this because they think they're going to get some kind of access, and that's not the case. There's actually an issue with it. So let's respond based on what I understand from this. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to step away from the microphone a little bit because my arm doesn't go all the way to my keyboard. So see if you can hear me from here. All right. So we're going to say I've seen a similar issue before, and it was resolved by navigating to the users section, selecting my user account, and clicking on the promote to admin button on the toolbar. Also, make sure your user account is set to read write instead of administration level. Okay, so I'm gonna mark that as a suggested answer. By the way, just full transparency here, I'm actually a moderator on the community. You can see that there's a little pen right here. It says manage, and if I go into administration, there's a moderation thing right here. I'm not, approving my own answers or anything like that. I don't like to abuse the system, but I do check it when I log in once in a while because there might be some abusive posts or something, and I like to get rid of those. I'm not, again, the most active moderator, but I appreciate that Microsoft gave me the ability to do moderation if I have to. So they trust me enough to do that. All right, so we answered that question. Let's just make sure I posted. I think it did. Let me see. There it is, Gus Gonzalez. Okay, cool. I don't know why my signature is humongous, but whatever. Let's close that. Let's go to the next one. Can Power Virtual Agents, Power VA, help Dynamics 365 Finance and SCM? I have no idea. So this will be one of those questions that I couldn't answer. I'm not really deep into Power Virtual Agents, but it looks right here like Emily, I don't know, answer and says yes. And, well, it looks like she answered. So there's nothing for me to add. Obviously, I'm not going to mark her answer as valid or verified. Only the poster should do that, even though I can as a moderator. I'm not going to do that. All right, mass editing records without cascading. I'm facing a situation where I must mass update the owner of 100 plus contact records without updating the owner of the records that are being cascading down to. If I were to disable cascading for this entity type, reassign the records, and re-enable to cascading, would it have my desired effect of never updating the owner of the child records? Yes, the answer is yes. That's exactly what is going to happen. And fortunately, this one hasn't been answered, so absolutely. If you disable cascading on assign, those records will not be assigned, and you can always turn cascading on after you have completed the assignment. Although I'm not a big fan of leaving cascading on upon assignment, at least not for all records, only for active ones. Okay. And then I'll add a good luck in there. All right, so that's answer number 2. Let's do a couple more, and then we'll go to CRMUG. By the way, once again, I see that people are tuning in. If you have any questions or any suggestions, feel free to add them to the chat on YouTube, and I'll be able to read it and answer it along the way. But you can see, I mean, we've answered 2 questions pretty quickly, like within 5 minutes or whatever. So if you dedicate like 30 minutes or even 10 minutes a day, I think you can answer like 5 questions a day. And if you do that, I don't know, 40 weeks out of the year, just to leave 12 weeks, 3 months where you're not doing anything, 40 weeks out of the year, I mean, it adds up. It adds up a bunch. You know, you'll be doing like an hour of work every week. That's 40 hours of answering questions. And if you can answer, let's say 20 questions an hour, that's 800. I mean, it's a lot. I think on the first year, back when I became an MVP, I did something like, I don't know, like 1,800 or 1,500 or something like that in 1 year. And that was just, I wasn't doing it every day. It was almost every day, but I would typically dedicate about 30 minutes. So 30 minutes a day where I would set, like, for example, if I think it was during the lunch hour, so I had a 1 hour for lunch, I would eat in like 30 minutes at my desk. And then the other 30 minutes, I would just answer questions. And sometimes I would knock out like 50 questions in 30 minutes because especially after an upgrade, the questions kind of get repetitive. People keep having like the same issue and they don't look to see if anyone else have asked the same question. So one trick that I used to use is I would open, you know, if I saw a question multiple times, and in a lot of cases they had no answers because they're about an upgrade and not everyone is playing with the latest and greatest, right? So I saw that there were like, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 questions about the same thing. Like this is not working, or why is this not active, or whatever it is. So what I did in that case is I would open them all and the answer will be the same, which was a KB article, or you have to enable this setting, or something like that. So you can answer like 10 questions within like 30 seconds. I mean, I literally just open them in multiple tabs and just go tap, paste, suggest, answer, submit, suggest, answer, submit. And all of them got marked as verified answers. So it's pretty straightforward once you do it that way. We're not doing that right now. We're just opening them all, which is, you know, the other way that I did it most of the time. Okay, next question. Well, this thing is from C5 Insight, so that's not going to work. All right, JavaScript. So this, I have no idea about JavaScript. I don't even try to look into it. So let's see if we can tag somebody. Well, this is a huge post. So it's not really a question. It's more about, you know, using JavaScript to do something. Okay, to allow updating specific fields. Post record complete. So see, I'm not a big fan of stuff like this, and obviously I'm not sure how useful this is because it's all code related. But like you can do this, you can, you know, update specific fields after a record has been completed or whatever it is in a variety of different ways. You know, with a workflow, you can do it. Obviously, you have to reopen, then do the updating, and then close it again, which introduces some issues in there. But I'm not necessarily saying that JavaScript might be the only solution. I like codeless solutions because they're better in terms of upgrades and stuff like that. You can write a JavaScript solution that looks awesome, and then in 6 months is obsolete, or you have to rewrite it because Microsoft just came up with a new thing that makes your code obsolete, even though it was supported, even though it was perfect when you wrote it 6 months ago. So I personally like codeless solutions. If I can use the tools out of the box, the better, because the more I use Microsoft tools out of the box, Dynamics 365 tools, the less is the chance for them to break after an upgrade. They can break. I'm not saying they're invincible, but it's not as likely as code. Code breaks all the time. All right. Let's see. Does anyone know when the issue of Instagram unknown author can be fixed? I don't even know what that issue is, so I'm not sure how I can answer that. Document management for dynamic SharePoint access control based on business process flow stage. Okay, so let's see what this question is, or maybe it's a tutorial. I don't know. Let's see. Is this a question? Okay, it is a question. It has no answer. So let's see if we can answer this one. Okay, hi all. We're using Dynamics 365 Online in the government cloud. Good to know. We have an entity with a business process flow that has multiple stages. Each stage is owned by a team. And there are use cases when 2 or more different stages are owned by the same team. For example, stage 1 is owned by team A, stage 2 is owned by team B, and so on. All our users have team member license and are part of a single team. We use SharePoint Online for document search and versioning. Each Dynamics record has 1 or more documents in its SharePoint location. Our requirement is when a record is in stage 1, only team A should be able to access a document, and then and so on. So I understand the requirement. This is an interesting one. I've had kind of a similar requirement in the past several times. So that's what I'm going to be basing my answer on. But let's keep reading and see if there's something that jumps at me. We're planning to achieve this functionality by dynamically controlling SharePoint security, that is, break security inheritance, blah, 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 at a folder level based on Dynamics 365 record stage, but we're facing lots of challenges. Can we achieve this with a plugin that will trigger on stage change, blah, blah, blah? We're using this Dynamics 365 Online. We might not be able to, okay, DLLs and all of that. I don't know. Can we try using Power Automate to do it? I'm not really sure if Power Automate will help you with security. If this was a record thing, if this was creating records, moving them from one to another or whatever, I would say, yeah, Power Automate is probably going to be able to do that. But because we're, modifying security, I'm not really sure if you will be able to do that. And he's talking about trigger looks like a premium for, making somebody an admin account or whatever, or using an admin account to move stuff in the next stage. I'm not really sure. So I'm going to provide what my first kind of, I guess idea would be, which will be looking into the solution from Connected Software, which I've used several times, and they're pretty good. So let's see, what's his name? Okay, Santhoop. Okay, Santhoop. My first idea would be to look into a Dynamics 365 / SharePoint security synchronization solution. I believe Connected Software has one that works well. And I would try to marry that solution to Access Teams in Dynamics 365. So the idea is, again, if we ignore the whole point of SharePoint, right, and the document and stuff, if the request was, look, when we get to stage 1, I want to make sure team A sees the record, not team B. But then when it gets to, stage number 2 in the business process flow, I want team B to be able to see it, but not team A. And then when we get to stage 3, then, we go back. Team A can see it, team B. That's probably Access Teams will be the best way to do that. And if I'm thinking about how to automate that whole thing, I would probably use workflows, more specifically the Ultimate Workflow Toolkit from Andrew Butenko, which is a free tool that allows you to add members to a team and take them out of a team. Now, that's a security team. We have to see how it works with Access Teams. But that's probably where I'm leaning, and that perhaps is not the ultimate solution, but that's where I'm going to go and then figure it out along the way. So I'm not giving him the 100% of the answer, but I am, pointing him in the right direction. At least I believe that's the right direction. So that's the best I can do. All right, marry that solution to access teams in Dynamics 365. I would look into Andrew. Let me see if I can tag him. Can I tag people in here? Andrew, no. Andrew Butenko's Ultimate Workflow Toolkit. You can see how bad I type. Since I know there is a step in there to remove people to teams, and that may work for access teams. Let me add a little bit more detail. The idea is that when you reach stage 1, Team A's members will be added to an access team, which then be synchronized to SharePoint security via whatever tool you use for that. And then when the BPF, the business process flow, reaches stage 2, then Team B will be added to the team, and the solution will sync permissions with SharePoint and so on and so forth. All right, so I'm not even going to suggest it as an answer. I'm just pointing him on the right direction. So I'm not going to assume that's an answer. All right, hopefully that helps him out. So I think we answer about 3 or 4 questions. Oh, this is a workflow question. I have to look into this one. My favorite topic. So Tristan is saying your volume is low. All right, well, let's see. Let's crank it up a little bit. How's that? Is that better? All right. Or actually, let me crank it up on the system right here. All right, crank it up. Hello? Is that better? Should be yellow now. Crank it up all the way. That's pitching into red. Let me come down. But thank you so much for letting me know, Tristan, that my volume was low. I want it to be as good as possible. So let me know if the video is not good. Let me know. Although I don't think I can swap cameras at this point. But hopefully that's better. And by the way, right now you can see me in the camera. I don't know if that's valuable or not. If you'd rather go full screen, let me know. I can just switch to be full desktop and you don't even see my ugly mug on the camera. So right now I have this hybrid visual going on, but happy to switch if you prefer to do that. Okay, so let's see. So this one seems to have a bunch of answers. And by the way, yeah, I've seen people that do this. Please mark my answers, verify if I was helpful. That's one way to go at it. So you can see right here, I could say yes or no to verify because I'm a moderator, but I'm not going to do that. But there's a bunch of answers here. I don't think I can add anything, but just for fun, let me read the question. I've created a workflow which queries an external SQL database and inserts records into a custom CRM entity. I am wondering if I can schedule this workflow to execute 4 specific times in a day rather than manually running it. Yes and no. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to answer this. I mean, I cannot pass on this one. All right, I'm going to have to answer this one. Now, look, this is done. Let me go to Google right here and say Gus Gonzalez schedule workflows. All right. So there's an article I wrote for the MVP blog and for the community as well. It should be this one right here. That explains essentially how to do it, and that is also has a video on how to do it. So it's not exactly what he's asking about, but it's pretty close. By the way, 4 stars rating. How dare you? I don't know who rated me, but thank you. 4 out of 5 is not bad. All right, so let's answer right here. Hey, Pete. I think that you could leverage the solution I describe in this post. I know it's old, but it still works. Trust me. You know, I've meant to record this for 2 Minute Tuesday, but I think it's so long. Like it would, you know, it would have. It's not that I've never recorded videos that are longer than 2 minutes, but this one will be gross. It will be like 30 probably. So I'm thinking this has to be done like on a live stream like this one and just do it live, or on a video. Just record the video, whatever, 30 minutes long, whatever it is, and just post it out there, but not on a Tuesday because it will be too bad. Although it would break the record for the longest 2 Minute Tuesday, which I think is around 20 minutes. It's the longest 2 Minute Tuesday I've done. So anyway, I had to answer this one because it's about workflows. Come on. All right. Send automated email every 6 months, 1 month, and 2 weeks before the opportunity date. Yeah, this is a simple wait condition. So it's not super simple. You have to do a couple of check conditions along the way, but that should be the answer. Let's see if they talk about right here. A guy named Gus, like me. Cool. Yes, you can use a workflow approach and define a wait condition. That's the way to do it. But let's see if, what's his name or her name, Brian or Ryan. Let's see if Ryan responded with clarification. These guys are arguing back and forth. Okay, Ryan, here we go. Power Automate is a platform that you're familiar with. Okay, well, whoever's recommended Power Automate. I'm always a little concerned about that because I don't know. He didn't say if it was on premise or online. I don't think. So if you're on prem, it might get a little complicated. But you know, based on the pictures, it looks like it's a modern CRM, so it might be online. He just didn't mention it, so I'm always hesitant to say, yeah, we use Flow no matter what. Well, they could be on prem, and that might not be as smart to recommend that. Okay. Sending automated emails. Okay, please update start when condition. Yeah, I mean, this is, as far as I can see it, it's just a wait condition. I don't know what the problem is. Essentially, when you put a record in waiting status, this record will back to the database, and async service will retrieve it again, putting memory, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he's just talking about how it works behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, this is your straightforward, just a wait condition. And, you know, if you think about it, it can also work with the solution that from the link that I had before. So I'm going to recommend both. Hey, Ryan. There are two ways that you can, you know, satisfy this requirement. First, you can use a wait condition as mentioned, you know, in this post or in this thread above. Just be careful. Because the original record can change during or while the workflow is waiting to move on. For example, you might be waiting to send that, what's it called? What did he say? 6 months. 6-month email, but the opportunity was lost 3 months later, so there wouldn't be a need to send the email. So make sure you use check conditions every time you resume the workflow. 2, you can leverage the solution I detailed in the article below to quote unquote schedule when those messages have to be sent out. Good luck. All right, and that is a recommended answer, or a suggested answer, rather. Okay, so let's not just answer questions from the community. Let's switch a little bit. Let's switch to the Dynamics 365 user group and see what's there. So let me hit F5 to make sure we got the latest and greatest. Let's go to participate, discussions, and let's see what people are talking about. Okay, cash discount voucher series. I don't know what this is. This is AX. Why am I in AX? So how do I go to just Dynamics? I think this was, there's finance and operations stuff in here. There's some, US Georgia stuff. Okay, so I just need to get into customer engagement. Okay, so this is all Dynamics. Great. Using Power BI embedded in CRM to bypass personal dashboard views. Okay, so we're going to be answering that. So see, if it has 0 replies, I'll typically reply. Even if I don't know the answer, I'll try to point people in the right direction. If I see that they have, 7 answers or something, more than likely somebody jumped on that and, answer the question. So scroll down. Okay, so there's a couple zeros here. Not track only. You can see this email button missing to track. Okay, click on that. Width and sizes. I don't even finish reading the question. I just open that. 0 right here. Session about to expire. Boom. Bulk import. Sure. Implementation costs. Yep. Email whatever. Yeah, I don't know what that says. Let's keep going. Well, we opened like 8 of them. So let's start answering. Okay. First one, my company currently uses Power BI. He mentioned that we could bypass creating personal views. We have a total of 5 companies in each company view. I don't even have access to Power BI. Our IT person does all of that. Since contracts are not rolling over to the new UI, I was working on changing those. I also don't want to rebuild 50 personal views for these agreements if Power BI allows a better result and avoid manual changes. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to use Power BI if you don't have access to Power BI. So, I mean, that's the first thing we would have to gain is access to Power BI. Basically, using each personal view as our security model instead it is a lot to keep up on, especially when it manually changes. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure how to answer this question. The answer is yes, but if you don't have access to Power BI, it's impossible. Oh, what happened? Did I click something wrong? Okay. Reply. It's kicking me out for some reason. It's not letting me reply. I wonder if it's locked or something. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why I can't reply to this one. Let's see if it's doing that. Oh, it says view only. How view only? Oh, I'm not even signed in. Okay. Sign in. Come on. Yeah, it's kicking me out. Maybe I'm not even a CRMEG user anymore, so we might have to go back to the community. I did want to answer those questions. See, I feel defeated, and that's what happens with real-time sessions. Yeah, for some reason it's not letting me log in here. See, all of these are the same. It's like it shows my picture, but then it kicks me out. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh well, I'll figure that out later. Let's answer some more questions for the community. Any questions, by the way, from those of you who are viewing this or attending this live? I'm happy to answer your questions as well. But meanwhile, let's keep going down. Expand list in subgrid for related records in new UI. Open that up. 5 hours ago, avoid creating contact addresses. Go. Does data export service support fields of data type file? Nope. That's an easy one. Neil, killing it. How long and how much? I would read that for sure if I were you. Current user XXX does not have access to create a journal. That's typically a field service stuff. And actually, I'm gonna stop right there because I want to answer questions on the other forums as well. We're still on general. If you just join us, we're answering questions on the general forum for the community for Dynamics 365, the official Microsoft community. But there's also forums for sales and customer service and all of that. I would advise, if this is something you can do to gain knowledge, I would advise you to go to all of those different forums and try to answer questions there, because that way you gain knowledge about those specific applications. Okay, so let's answer a couple here, unless they already have an answer. Okay, so this one has a bunch of answers in there already, and they're going the right way. So I don't think I'll have anything to add. Avoid creating contact addresses. Let's see. There's a couple of. David is responding. He's a Microsoft MVP, so he should have that. Let's see. Emil, any responses here? There's only one. Main question is data expert can handle file type. Yeah, no. Hi, Emil. File type is not handled by data export service. However, before I hit submit, let's read her question here. For one of our customers, recently not syncing correctly. Yep, it has a failure because one of them is a file column data. My question is support. Nope, it doesn't. Try creating a binary data. I don't even know those links and what they are because the answer is no. It doesn't support it. It might do it in the future, but at this time there is no support for file field types through data export service or any other service for that matter. Suggested answer, submit. All right. Getting after it. We'll do a couple more and then we'll end it there. I wonder how many I've done. I wanted to do like 10 to 20 or something. All right. So this has a bunch of code already. I'm facing a problem. Let's see if we have any answers in here. Nobody. Okay, let's try to answer this one. I'm facing a problem while I'm trying to create a new hour journal. Current user does not have access to create a journal working only on admin user. Our developer debugged this problem and he found the problem like below. When you're not a system admin and the check method returns false, the error is thrown and the record loops over record, but no record, so return value stays at original value equals false. Yeah, I mean I'm not sure what I can add for this. No access. I mean this just sounds like a permissions issue. Am I missing something? Maybe you guys know. If you know, please answer the question or let me know what I should say. But I mean, it just says they don't have access to create a journal. I mean, journal is one of those entities in field service. Just provide access. I'm not really sure what to add here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm going to leave it open for now. Maybe you guys have an idea. Sending automate. Oh, we already answered this one. All right, let's go to the other forums. So back to this guy. Let's go to sales. All right, not able to update the owner of a record. Interesting. Quote details switching to write-in product leaves product ID populated. All right, business process flow not showing on the quote form opportunity. We'll open 5. Power automate, blah, blah, blah. How do I select all contacts? Okay, let's do 5. All right, so that's the one that still waiting on an answer. Okay, I have a plugin. I have a plugin that is pulling in additional information after a product is selected. When I write in is selected, I'm also doing some work. However, what I'm finding is that you create a quote detailed record with an existing product, then update it to a writing product, and then the product ID does not clear out like it should. This causes me multiple problems downstream, blah, blah, blah. They are a concatenation of the original existing product plus the writing product name. I try to write a plugin that fixes the issue, but I get an error. I wonder if you can do it with a business rule. I don't remember. I feel like on product line items you cannot use business rules, but I wonder if it's possible. Because if it is possible, then you could wipe it out with a business rule and call it a day. So let me just post that. Andrew, have you tried creating a business rule that can clear that field for you when you enter a write-in product. And it's kind of a suggested answer. I just don't know if it's possible. I don't remember. The out-of-the-box product catalog is not something that you work with in every project, as you probably know by now. All right. Business process flow not showing on the quote form, not from, opportunity. I have an issue with my business process flow from opportunity to quote. If I add the quote from the subgrid, the BPF still doesn't show in the quote entity, but if I create the quote from the BPF, then I can see the direct BPF. Can anyone tell me if there's a way to show the BPF in the quote when I create it from the subgrid? That's an interesting question. Okay, so this person has a bunch of batches. He's at level 6, so he's been around for a while. Let's see what they say. Yeah, he's just talking about the BPF and how he does it. I don't think that's going to help, though. Yeah, I mean, that is true. You cannot apply a BPF that starts from a different entity, for example, a lead. That is true. You have to have a BPF that kind of expands from one entity to another, but you can't really take ownership of the other one. However, you can set the stage when you create the quote. You know, we have a business process flow manager on the XRM toolbox. If you haven't seen that tool, you should check it out. But essentially does that. It changes stages based on conditions, or, well, you can run it manually. Essentially, you say, you know, what stage it should be on. So you could automate that process and say, you know, with a workflow, and say, you know, whenever I create a quote that is connected to an opportunity that is on stage 3 or whatever, I don't know what the requirement is, then make sure the quote is in stage 4 or something like that. You could do that, but I don't know all the details. So let's answer to Heidi right here and say, Heidi, yeah, I mean, they already answered the question. It's create a business process flow that includes the quote, but I just have one more question. Are you creating the quote from the out of the box quote grid, I guess, inside the opportunity form? So based on her answer, I'll be able to help her a little more, because if it's a custom grid, then that makes it more difficult. The out-of-the-box grid has a special code behind it. When you create a quote in there, it saves it automatically. It copies all of the line items that are at the opportunity level, and it pastes them all in the quote. And, you know, it sets everything. It sets the opportunity, it sets the customer, it sets, you know, the estimated revenue. So it does a lot of work. It's not just a grid. The out-of-the-box grid does more. If you just add your custom grid and you click on new, it's not going to do any of that stuff. So you have to use the out-of-the-box one. So I just need to know if she's using that or if she's using a custom grid. All right, Power Automate to create a lead without a custom note. Work fine, I guess, but suddenly there's a note problem. I have Power Automate that is used to create a lead based on an email. A newly created lead, the text from the email is put into a note. Okay. Screenshot is in Norwegian. The process is pretty straightforward. This is worked perfect, but last week something has changed. Suddenly the note is filled with the body in HTML format like this. That is true. This is true. Now, I can explain why this is happening, but I don't know how to fix it. The main reason is that Microsoft updated Notes recently. And now, instead of having a regular text editor, they have a rich text editor, which adds up all the HTML verbiage essentially on it. So I noticed that because I have this workflow that I used all the time. I mean, like almost every project I use this workflow, and you know, it started breaking. It started showing exactly what he's showing right here. And that is because Microsoft updated the nodes and now it's messed up. So I will answer why it's happening. I just don't have a solution. Yes, I noticed this too. It happened because during the last, or because an update was pushed that updated the description field on node with a rich text editor instead of a plain text one, the way it has been forever. So now all the text added to that field looks like this. I don't have a solution for it yet, but I know it's happening. You didn't do anything wrong. Submit. All right. How do I select all contacts in the Advanced Find Results tab and not just the contact displayed on the screen? My Advanced Find Results have 4,000 contacts, and I would like to add all of the contacts to a marketing list. However, when I click the box to select all contacts, it only selects the contacts on the current screen. Is there a way around this? Thank you so much. Actually, yes. There's actually a couple of ways to do it. Let's see if he has any answers in here. Yeah, I mean he's using one of the solutions that I was going to recommend, but I can still recommend a second one unless this one was already marked as a verified answer. Okay, so yeah, I mean for you to create an advanced find, you have to use a criteria. The criteria is something like show me everyone who lives in New York or something. Whatever filter you use for advanced find, you can use to add people to a marketing list, following the steps that are explained on this post right here. So it doesn't matter how many records per page. You just add the same filter and it works. It works great. The other one is by using Outlook, and this is actually the first thing that I did after I became an MVP that I feel like I discovered something. It did two things. Number one, it allowed me to be like the first one in the world essentially to notice something or to discover something and blog about it. It was like my first viral, blog article within the community. That's like 17 people saw it. That made it viral back in the day in 2012. But it was like one of those things that I discovered. And number two, it made the creation of tools like the bulk workflow execution tool in XRM Toolbox possible, because I broke the cloud. I broke the Microsoft Dynamics CRM cloud back in the day because I find out how to use Outlook in order to execute a command. Like in this case, he's trying to add to a marketing list for records in bulk, more than 250 at a time. So let me see if I can find that article, and that way I can send the instructions for that. So let's see, Gus Gonzalez, Outlook, I don't know, bulk records or something. Let's see if we can find. I wrote it back in 2012, so I think it might be this one, but I don't know if this guy still have my blog post that I wrote it back in 2012. So I guess it is in there still. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So look at this. Oh, in 2013. There you go. So I was an MVP. I became an MVP in July of 2012. So less than a year later, I wrote this article, and like I said, it went viral. But it was awesome to discover it. So let me post that. I'm not gonna reply to that. I'll reply to the original one. Hi there. You can always. I don't know about hi there. Let me see if there's a name. Sweaver. I don't know that's a name, but let me just say hi, Sweaver. You can always use the Outlook client to add them all at once. I wrote the steps on how to do this a few years ago. All right. So we'll add that. That's another way to do it. Okay. And this is the problem that we had originally. Okay, so we answered, I guess, several questions. Yeah, that is the same one as that one. Let's go to another forum and answer a couple for customer service now. And that's probably where we're going to end it. I wish I had more time and we can do like field service and marketing and everything. Again, I like to try to answer as many questions as possible, even the ones I don't know. If I can point people in the right direction, or if I can send a link to someone I know who can answer it, or if I can do the research and learn on my own, which happens a lot, by the way, then I'll do that. Okay, customer service next. And then that way I answer it. Okay, so portals, for example, I'm going to send this to Nick. I already see the title of the case, and I just move on. Okay, let's open that. Let's open this, and let's open that's portals too. There's a lot of questions about portals in the forums as well. Case creation filled by WF by workflow, I assume. So we'll try to do that. Okay, so solution version control. We ran into an issue, looking for guidance. We clone our solution in the sandbox with the intent of rolling it up. This was done ahead of time with the intent, and he's talking about patches. So he's using managed solutions, and you guys know my stand on managed solutions. This was done ahead of time with the intent to push over the weekend, so we had time to conduct the full end-to-end testing. However, additional development was needed that week and ended up experiencing over 4 weeks, or extending over 4 weeks. When we went to push our development change, we realized we were unable to, as the patch didn't match the parent solution in production. This is what happens when you use managed solutions, right? Not the best. We realized we can directly modify the version on the patch to allow importing to production, but we're hesitant to do so without being assured we won't run into any issues downstream. This is a potential solution we came up with, but we'll like feedback from the experts on the community. Modify the patch to a previous number, clone the solution, import a new parent solution, blah, blah, blah. There is a MVP politically correct answer to this question, and then there is the other question I would tell people, or the other answer. Because we're talking about production here, I am not going to suggest to go ahead for it. More than likely, if they were, doing this in another sandbox environment, like let's say if he said something like, I want to move it from dev to training or something like that, or UAT, right, or something like that, then I would say go ahead. You go ahead and move it, change the version, and try importing. I think it will work just fine, assuming that the changes they haven't made, or assuming that the changes they made does not affect the patch and all of that stuff, right? So let's say they made some changes, they have a newer version because they added a new custom entity, but the patches are for other entities that are already in the system, and there's not going to be any effect on those. If you change the version of it, I think it will work just fine. Obviously, you have to go through the whole XML to make sure you have the right version in there, but I think it will work. But because he's talking about production, or I think he's talking about production, I wouldn't recommend that. Now, if this was my environment here at Elevate, not as a customer, would I take a backup of production and modify the XML and try importing and then testing and have the backup just in case? Yeah, I would probably do that. I wouldn't do it in a customer implementation. I wouldn't take the risk with their implementation, but I would do it with ours. Once again, taking the appropriate measures before I do it. So I would take a backup on Friday, do this later on at night because, I have no life. I'll do it on Friday night. I'm always up late anyway. So take the backup, try the import. Did it work? Awesome. Now, you could take that to an extreme, since the environments are now included for free as long as you have 1 gig of storage. You can create another environment, do a minimal copy of production into this environment. You can call it patching, Gus solution, whatever. And, in this environment, you can have a minimal copy of it, which has all the customizations. Then try to import it, if it works, then you can feel better about doing production. But again, because I don't know your situation, I don't know your company, I wouldn't say go for it, green light, you have my complete blessing. But if it was my company, Elevate, and I took a backup ahead of time and all of that, I would totally do that. Do that, try it, see if it works. And if it doesn't work, I can always restore the backup from earlier that day. Microsoft has done a great job, by the way, with the whole restore and backup situation. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be harder. It used to take days in order to do it. Not anymore. It works great now. So that will be my approach. Maybe I'll put a link to this video. So he or she, I don't know who posted this, will have, my take on that. I'm going to leave it open so I can come back and do that after the video goes live. All right, synchronizing auto number between two CDS or between two databases. This is good, but only powers. Okay, so I recently kind of recorded a video about this. So let's go to YouTube and go to CRM MVP podcast or media rather. Okay, and in here, let's go to our channel, and it was very, very recent, like this one right here, populating previous records with auto number values. So the solution that I use in this video will help them. Where is it? No, this one. Okay, what's his name or her name? Just D365 fan. Hello. Can you try the solution I detailed in this video? I think you can help solving this issue, this requirement. It's really a requirement, not really an issue. All right, so submit that. Let's go to the next one. Case creation filled by workflow. Okay, so I'm creating a case using an out-of-the-box workflow. Whenever an email is received in the system, if the sender of an email is a contact and the contact is having the customer or the company name, then I want to send the company name into the case customer field. For this, I have set the sender's account property of the email into the customer field of the case. But if the sender's account is getting null and the workflow is then giving an error, in that case, missing a customer, please let me know how I can do it. Thanks in advance. I actually know this very well. Let's see what other people answer. Automatic case creation with a link. Yeah, look, I think that I'm not judging this person, by the way. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but I feel that this happens a lot in the community. And as a moderator, I'm not going to do anything about this. I'm not going to overreact or whatever, but I just feel that in some cases, because people are looking for the numbers, they're looking for, I want to have 1,000 answers this year or whatever it is, they tend to do this a lot. They put a link and they say, yeah, go here and do it. Now, I've done it a few times, if you notice, during this, streaming, this live stream. I've posted links and say, go here and do it. But I know that the solution is there. If I open this, it would just be a how-to. How do you set this up? There's no more explanation to it. So if I'm going to add a link to it that is a general thing, I try to add, kind of how to do it. Like here's the steps on how to get it done, but here's what you have to do. You have to create two things and make sure the first thing is in a higher value than the second thing. Like you want to add really how you would solve it rather than go to this link and figure it out. It's a good answer because you're pointing them in the right direction, but I think that adding a little bit more detail would have been way more beneficial. Perhaps it would have gotten this answer verified immediately. All right, so right now this guy's using Flow. She's not using Flow. She's using an out-of-the-box workflow. I mean, she mentioned it right on the ticket. So why would I go into Flow? We don't know if this is a CRM on-prem or online. She's also not mentioning that. So I'm just going to go by the fact she's using workflows, or at least my solution will work for on-prem and online. How's that? So I would say, hello, I would create a case creation rule with 3 conditions, or what do they call actions? Or actions. I'm just going to call it actions. One will check if the email creating the case belongs or came from a contact with a company. If so, connect the company as the customer and the contact as the contact. The other action will check if the contact does not have a company, in which case you can leave the contact as the customer, or my preference, add or assign the case to a company I call onAssign, and set the contact to the case contact. And lastly, I check if the email came from an internal employee, because that happens a lot, by the way, that an internal employee sends an email to the support account on behalf of a customer or whatever. So they'll be like, hey, I just met with this customer, they're having an issue, somebody look into this. So if you check for who sent the email and it's a user instead of a contact, your whole thing is going to collapse. So if you're using this as if you're doing this with a workflow, just checking for whether the email came from a contact and whether that contact has a company or not is not enough. You also have to check to make sure that it didn't come from a user. So that's what I'm adding in here. And like I said, that is the level of clarity you want to add into these cases or into these tickets or questions, whatever you want to call it, because that's what makes it a verified answer. All right, I check if the email came from an internal employee, because if that's the case, you won't know, or the system won't know which customer the case belongs to. So in those cases, or in those scenarios, so I don't confuse it with cases, I like to, if I can type, I like to assign the case to the what did I call it? Unassigned account record. Leave the contact or the case contact field empty, and sometimes assign the case to the user who sent the email in. All right, so if you're watching this video and I'm answering your question, essentially one case creation rule with multiple actions. One will check, and it's very simple. I do, does the case regarding field, is it empty? Because if it's not empty, then that means that email belongs to another record, so you don't want to create another case. So the set regarding field needs to be empty, so it's just a clear email. And assuming that is an email that is sent to like service@mycompany.com. So the first check is the set regarding field empty? And number two is the contact, which is essentially from contact. You will see when you're searching, on the filters that you can add, you will see, is it from contact's company contains data? So if it contains data, that means they have a company. So on the actions below, the creation of the case, you say the customer is the from contact's company name. And you can also add an action below that says, and then place it on a queue if you want to do that. So there's two actions in there when you're creating, those things. The first one is to create the case. The second one is typically, send an email to the owner to let him know that the new case has been created, or place the case in a queue or something like that. But then you want to have three of those. So one is for the contact with a company, one is for the contact without a company, one is for a user. So those three things you want to account for. That way your system works regardless. Because again, the person emailing you, it's either going to be a worker of the company, a user, or a contact with or without a company. Like there's nothing else that will, be emailing you. Okay, I guess it could be any email enabled record, like a lead, or if you created a custom entity, with that is email enabled, that can be the case too. But like I said, generally it's going to be either a contact, because even if it's an unknown person, Dynamics out of the box creates a contact, not a lead. Unless you change that, then you have to account for leads too. But if you didn't change that, then it will create a contact without a company. It says, look, somebody emailed the service, queue or the service email address. I created this contact. I don't know who they work for. Your solution, your case creation rules should do that. And that is another one that I don't know if there's a whole lot of content out there for this, or if there's a lot of videos out there for this. This might be another one that would be interesting to tackle in one of these. I just don't know how many people really want to do a deep dive into customer service the way, I can dive into customer service. I've implemented that thing so many times, and I pretty much know everything you can do with it, I think, at this point. So I don't know how many people want to do that, but if you want to, then, let me know. Hit me up, and we'll do that. Maybe we'll do it on one of these live streaming sessions. I don't know if I should do more of these. I feel like, already we do a 2-Minute Tuesday, every Tuesday, and I don't want to bombard everyone with content from the CRM MVP Media, YouTube channel, having live meetings on Mondays, tips on Tuesdays, friends on Fridays, or whatever we decide to do. I don't want to bombard, the community with a lot of content. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create content that matches what the community is asking for, the things that are lacking content out there on the internet, putting out videos that explain things the way I do them, which is not always what Microsoft does. So if you notice, like, I think every single link that we shared today on how to do something or how to solve a problem came from a blog I wrote or a video I created or something like that. It's not normally a Microsoft content page. And it's not that there's KB articles and things that Microsoft wrote that are bad. A lot of those things are written by professionals like me, but I typically like to put mine because they 100% of the time come from a project that I did. I don't sit around being like, okay, what else can I come up with today and make it up along the way. I literally just find it in a project, I resolve the problem, and I share what solution I use for it. It's not always the best solution, but it's the solution that I use. So I talk about what I did and how I did it. And some people get value out of that. So I don't know how many questions we answered today. Maybe some of you kept track of how many, but we did answer at least 10, I think. 10 between 10 and 20 was my goal for today. I hope you enjoyed the session today. It was about an hour long, maybe a little bit longer than that. Thank you if you watched the whole thing. If not, you can go back and start it within a few minutes or so. It will be available in the YouTube channel for you to watch the whole thing again if you want to. But yeah, I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. Subscriptions really help us become, more noted, I guess, or noticed will be the right word on YouTube. So when people search for things like auto number, Dynamics 365 auto number, what we want is to make sure that we show up at the top. Right now, there's a lot of, and I'm just using that where we might be at the top, but I'm just using that as an example. There's a lot of videos out there from companies that are essentially saying it's like, something like Dynamics 365 is capable of doing auto numbers, and the fields that you add is auto number fields. Thank you so much for watching our video. Bye-bye. Like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but how do I do it? How do I use it in a real world solution? Those, I think, are the videos that will have a bigger impact on the community. We don't have any sponsors. We don't make money out of this. We just love to share the content. We love to share our best practices and lessons that we learn with the community. So if you subscribe, it helps us, gain more visibility out there for sure, and we can help more people. So I hope that you do that, and also share with your colleagues and other people. If you saw something I answered today and you're like, I had no idea you can do that, just share the video, send it out, put it on Twitter, give me a shout out on LinkedIn, whatever it is, and say, hey, Gus, at minute 18, whatever that solution you talked about is great. I didn't even know you can do that. That's awesome. More people will notice, more people will watch. which is, what we ultimately want. And hopefully we get some new questions and I get to answer them and learn more about Dynamics 365, which will make me a better solution architect. This is not all selfless, by the way. I don't answer these questions 100% for the love of the game. I learn from it too, by researching and be able to answer more questions. So I'm doing this for me too. Don't get me wrong. Subscribe so I can learn more about Dynamics and be even better architecting solutions. But for now, thank you so much for joining. We'll see you in the next one. Let us know when what topic it is, or